The realization struck Elias with the force of a physical blow. Blackwood's journals, scattered amidst the chaos of his research, contained a recurring theme: the solstice. Not just any solstice, but the summer solstice, when the sun reached its highest point in the sky and its rays aligned perfectly with the structure's central axis. Blackwood believed that the solstice alignment acted as a catalyst, amplifying the structure's energy exponentially. He theorized that it was during this alignment that the gateway to other dimensions was fully opened, allowing for unrestricted travel across time and space. Elias checked his chronometer. The summer solstice was tomorrow. A wave of dread washed over him. He'd been so focused on unraveling the mystery, on deciphering Blackwood's research, that he'd failed to recognize the impending danger. He'd unwittingly set himself up for a catastrophic event. He tried to shut down the experiment, to dismantle the chromatic key, to sever the connection between the structure and the amplified energy. But it was too late. The structure had taken on a life of its own, pulsating with an eerie, otherworldly glow. The air crackled with energy, and the walls vibrated with a low, resonant hum. He realized with growing horror that he was no longer in control. He was merely a pawn in a cosmic game, a witness to an event far beyond his comprehension. The next day dawned clear and bright, the sun rising majestically over the horizon. Elias stood before the structure, bracing himself for the inevitable. The solstice alignment was beginning. As the sun reached its zenith, a beam of intense light pierced the structure's central axis, illuminating the carvings with an ethereal glow. The structure began to tremble, vibrating with an increasing intensity. The air crackled with energy, and the resonant hum intensified, reaching a deafening crescendo. Then, the world began to unravel. The colors of the carvings swirled and blended, creating a kaleidoscopic vortex of light and shadow. The walls of the structure seemed to dissolve, replaced by shimmering, translucent images of alternate realities. He saw glimpses of ancient civilizations, futuristic cities, and landscapes that defied description. He experienced fragmented visions, fleeting glimpses of events that had happened in the past, were happening in the present, and might happen in the future. He saw himself as a child, playing in a sun-drenched garden. He saw himself as an old man, sitting alone in a darkened room. He saw himself standing before the structure, repeating the same actions, uttering the same words. He felt a blurring of time and space, a disorientation that bordered on madness. He couldn't distinguish between reality and illusion, between memory and imagination. He was lost in a sea of fragmented perceptions, adrift in a chaotic vortex of time and space. He saw Blackwood standing before him, his face contorted in a mixture of triumph and despair. Blackwood spoke, his voice echoing through the chaos. "You shouldn't have come here," Blackwood said. "It's a trap, a loop. We're all trapped in a loop." Elias tried to speak, to ask Blackwood what he meant, but his voice was lost in the chaos. He realized with growing horror that Blackwood wasn't speaking to him, but through him. Blackwood's consciousness had merged with his own, becoming an integral part of his being. He saw a flash of insight, a terrifying revelation that shattered his understanding of reality. He realized that the entire story, his journey to the island, his research, the solstice alignment had happened before, countless times before. He was trapped in a temporal loop, a repeating cycle of events that had been unfolding for centuries, perhaps millennia. Every action he took, every decision he made was predetermined, a consequence of the loop's inherent structure. He was not the first to come to the island. He was merely the latest iteration of a repeating pattern, a pawn in a cosmic game with no beginning and no end. He saw glimpses of other researchers, other explorers, other fools who had come to the island seeking answers, only to become trapped in the loop. He saw their faces, their hopes, their fears, their despair. He realized that the structure wasn't a gateway to other dimensions, but a prison, a temporal trap designed to ensnare those who dared to unravel its secrets. He saw himself standing before the structure, repeating the same actions, uttering the same words. He saw himself writing the same notes, conducting the same experiments, experiencing the same visions. He was trapped. He was doomed to repeat the same cycle endlessly for all eternity. He closed his eyes, surrendering to the inevitable. He felt a sense of profound sadness, a deep sense of loss, but he also felt a strange sense of acceptance. He was part of something larger than himself, a cosmic pattern that transcended time and space. He opened his eyes. He was standing on the beach, the sun rising over the horizon. He was looking at the structure, its silhouette stark against the clear blue sky. He was back at the beginning. He knew with absolute certainty that he would repeat the same journey, conduct the same research, experience the same visions. He was trapped in a loop, a repeating cycle of events that would continue for all eternity. He was Lumin Verity Hayes, and he was doomed to repeat the same story endlessly for all time. The loop had begun again.